Absolutely, absolutely. So I will let each of my distinguished panelists introduce themselves and we'll jump right into it.
All right. Good afternoon. My name is Azia Shine. I run Fusicology. We are a lifestyle marketing company, the hub for progressive music and culture. Been around for almost 10 years. Essentially, we list events across North America tailored to soul, funk, jazz, hip hop, and house. And we also market a lot of records, work with artists. I've done a lot of artist management. And yeah, that's basically what I am. And I'm based out of Los Angeles.
Hi, my name is Jeff Rabhan, guitarist. Let's see, I was an artist manager for a very long time in Los Angeles. I was a partner in a company called The Firm, which at the time was the largest artist management company in the world. I currently am the chair of the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music, which is the music business program at New York University. And I do a little bit of management on the side and a little bit of consulting as well, and am available for any jobs you may have. I work for food, money, you name it.
And my name is Jeff Watson. I am the Vice President of Interactive Marketing at Warner Brothers Records. I was formerly an artist on Warner Brothers Records in a band that you've never heard of that sold no records at all. So if you want to hit me up about how to not sell albums afterwards, you can see me as well. I have done interactive marketing campaigns for Green Day and My Chemical Romance and Muse and a lot of the rock acts that we do, some pop acts, but that's what I do.
Very cool. All right, so we've had a lively debate in the green room. I want to get it started now. So is digital marketing just marketing?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. With a qualifier. No, exactly. Here comes the debate. Here's the ring. It's the reason I actually kind of asked this question because we were kind of riffing on the idea of like new media, right? Like I've been at Warner Brothers since 2002, and when I got there, we were kind of called like the internet department or like the computer guys.
New media.
And then new media came into play, right? So new media as a term was, kind of relevant at the time because it was sort of new. And it's always kind of a running joke to me that it's like calling the Beach Boys at this point because they're not really boys anymore. They're kind of a little bit older at this point. Same concept for the term new media, right? So I think that what's ended up happening is that internet marketing, digital marketing, however you want to call it, is up for debate, but I really do believe that it is obviously a crux of what's going on in terms of marketing, right? I mean, from even when I started over at Warner in 2002, we didn't have iTunes, we didn't have Spotify, there was no streaming services, there was really nothing necessarily except, hey, we got a website and we were done, we got to post stuff and everything's cool. Clearly now there's so many different touch points that come into the digital marketing world. Now a lot of other people, there's obviously still room for traditional marketing, right? There's obviously still room for TV advertising and radio advertising or however that looks. But I think that the effective way to really pull those in, obviously, is also through digital aspects too as well. So I am talking a lot.
If I may add to that, the other thing which I think is very interesting is that if you think about the traditional marketing model over the years, it's sort of done for you or done for artists, whereas digital marketing is really more about an artist establishing their personal brand in a lot of ways and speaking for themselves and speaking to their fans directly. So if you look at how marketing has actually changed, I think you've taken a lot out of the hands of people doing it for you, and you really must rely upon yourself in order to establish your personal brand, because obviously fans want to have that experience with the artist and want to know what that artist's voice is, and that's become part of sort of establishing who you are, and that's marketing.
And I don't think people listen to marketers and people listen to the artists. So if it's not organic and it doesn't have that sort of touch feel, I don't think people will pay attention. They'll just think it's like an advertorial instead of something that is going directly from the artist to the consumer.
So actually, let me do this. I forgot to do this in the very beginning, but this is actually appropriate. What is the makeup of the audience? Who here are artists? If you're an artist, raise your hand. Okay, if you are an artist manager or artist representative, raise your hand. Record label person, publisher, technology provider. Wow. Yeah. Okay. All right. Cool. So to follow up on that point, how much of the marketing should be done by the artists themselves? So buy this. Here's a link to buy tickets or music.
As much as possible. Can I give you guys a quick example? I'm the marketing director for Fela on Broadway. Fela Kuti is an African artist, very famous. And basically, Michelle Williams is a new cast member. When she tweets and she posts on Facebook, we get tons of responses. When I go in and I do my little thing, you know, a couple of retweets. So I absolutely think the more the artists can do themselves, the better, and it just seems authentic.
I also think that culturally, you know, we're sort of past the point where people want to put artists on a pedestal. I mean, if you think about the sort of era of the divas, the Mariah Careys and the Janet Jacksons, and you know, the sort of untouchable, you know, this artist lives in this, you know, in this cloud or in this castle that I can never attain to, I can never reach, I can never understand that world. I think those days are long gone. I think if fans can't reach out and touch you and you don't have a sort of, you know, meaningful relationship with them, I think that people don't believe in you anymore. And I think that's something that the culture has adopted. And a lot of it, you know, shockingly, I think lends itself to the whole American Idol model, which is, you know, that sense of I made you, or I contributed to you, or I'm responsible for your success. And I think a lot of fans really want to feel like they're a contributor to that world. You're not going to hear me say a lot of great things about American Idol, but that's one of them.
Except that Nicki Minaj is on there.
Yeah, that's right. Right. We love that. Right.
I think also too, you know, I have a lot of artists sometimes. It's actually been interesting to see the shift. I have a lot of artists come to me and they'll say, you know, how do I tweet? How do I Facebook? How do I use whatever? So, but a lot of artists that are actually coming to me now are very salient with these. They're very aware of how to use these things because sometimes of the younger generation and whatever it looks like. But what I really try and encourage a lot of my artists to do is what we're talking about here is to really use those platforms, whatever they may be, right, as a way of truly expressing themselves. Because again, once that authentic voice comes through, that's the best connection you can possibly have to an artist, in my opinion.
Do you get pushback from the artists? Because I know there can be, sometimes it can be received negatively by the fans when the artist pushes them to buy something.
Well, the one thing I would say about that is, and it doesn't really answer your question at all, is that, you know, if you really think about it now, it really feels like, and don't throw, you know, rocks at me for saying this, but like, the music for an artist, like, that's your business card. Like, that's, okay, that's who I am. That's, just gets the door open. That is not, that's one tiny facet of everything that you are, what you have to say, what your interests are, what you do when you're free time. Like, it's a whole experience. So I do think that, I'm just trying to answer this in some fashion at all. I do think that people don't want to be sold. It's got to feel real. I think consumers are super, super smart because they've been screwed with for so long and things have been jammed down their throat for so long that people are very, very smart.
But they also have to be a little tame. There's a hip-hop artist that will go unnamed that is a little too on Twitter and answers, like somebody said he was whack on some track he put out and he like responds and dude, don't you have anything better to do than to respond to everybody's tweets? So there's a level of, I think, you know, personalization that you can take with you, but you don't have to be involved in every single conversation on Twitter and Facebook and other social mediums.
So what are some of the strategies that you've employed for marketing various things around the artists or clients that you work with? So, you know, does it look different when you're marketing merchandise versus touring versus music sales? What are some of the strategies and how do they differentiate between by the thing that you're promoting?
Well, I think for starters, just in terms of like tour marketing is a really big thing for us at Warner Brothers Records, and excuse me, and we're always challenged to actually do a couple of things with touring specifically, right? One is to try and expose the artist in the particular market. Hey, Band X is playing in your favorite city here, but also two, to really give an experience within the venue itself, right? So there's all kinds of ways that you can do that. Obviously, there's you know, unlock or tweet for a seat upgrade, however that looks. And then we'll obviously really hone in, do geo-targeting in these specific markets. And that's been really effective for us. But obviously too, when you're doing music promotions, whenever you're actually, you know, pushing the music, ultimately it's kind of the same marketing to a certain degree, but I think that there's a whole bunch of different variants that you can do. We also do a lot of merchandise too, as well. And we use, you know, you can use Pinterest, you can use these different kinds of sites that really kind of focus specifically on those types of materials.
I think going back to the Fela brand, I think you have to be careful because there's the theater and the Broadway production, which is a whole other side of things, and then you have the merchandise of a legendary artist, you know, a revolutionary, and there's a lot of people that are sensitive to that because of who he is, and so, but then you have like people remixing his stuff, so you cater the DJ market, so it's different, but essentially you use the same tools, I think, but you just do it in a different fashion.
Okay, so let's talk about what are some of those tools. What are some of the tools that you guys like and find to be really effective for you?
I'm going to state, unfortunately or fortunately, the obvious. I mean, I've tried a lot of things, but Twitter and Facebook, sometimes Pinterest, depending on what it is, and those are just so powerful because everyone's on it. But then we use a lot of other sort of things that are like SoundCloud and Mixcloud for music and sharing things like of that nature. But for the most part, Twitter and Facebook. Do you guys find anything that's a little less obvious?
I mean, I think those clearly work and those are obvious. What I've found to be successful is when artists use those platforms to talk about things other than the obvious, like in the studio. I mean, who cares? You're in the studio. Okay, great. Or hey, my new song. Or hey, I'm hanging out with this person. A good example is Michelle Branch, who really has a huge interest in cooking. You know, and is involved in a cooking show, and you know, knows a lot of chefs. So she spends a lot of time on Instagram talking about, you know, a meal that she cooked, or a restaurant she went to, or when she's out on the road, a chef she met in a certain city. So tying in other interests into the traditional models seem to be successful for her and for a lot of other artists who like to share other parts of their life. Whether they're sharing their family, you know, ties into, you know, to childhood and other mothers and things of that nature. I think have always been very successful when artists show that they use the traditional methods to show the multidimensional.
I think also too that what I like to use a lot, and this may seem kind of obvious, but YouTube. Whenever we do a lot of tour marketing or whenever we do merchandise marketing or what have you, it's kind of actually really effective to just do kind of the basic things. Let's have a tour trailer for it. Let's go and let's advertise that particular tour trailer in these certain geo-targeted markets. Let's do merch trailers. We do merch trailers a lot these days. And those types of things, I mean, YouTube is such a massive, massive search engine essentially at that point, that for us to be able to kind of grab somebody, not just in necessarily music content or behind the scenes content or I'm cooking something kind of content, to actually drive people towards merchandise, towards ticket sales, towards whatever we want to use it for.
And so when you do create that tour trailer, how do you distribute it and make sure that it gets seen?
Well, well, first of all, obviously, kind of just get it out to the mass audience with the fans themselves, but then also I'll buy ads against it through YouTube, right? So like pre-roll ads essentially that we'll be able to target through the particular cities that we're trying to market to, and against like-minded bands and kind of go through there.
And to me, email marketing still works. It can't be annoying. It has to be only once or twice a week. I think there's fun stuff like Music Monday and, you know, fun things that have been developed over the past few years through social media, but we get really high open rates, but we're very targeted, we're very specific, and we keep it simple, and no one reads, so, you know, it's just image, info, link, more. You know what I'm saying? The minute you have a paragraph, I'm telling you, your open rate will be cut in half.
No one reads.
No one reads.
That's the takeaway.
That's the takeaway.
Real talk.
And so what kind of money do you think you need to allocate to that kind of thing? I guess it's going to depend on the type of, you know, how big the act is or how big the thing is that you're promoting. But what do those spends look like that you're working on? What do those campaigns look like?
A lot less than before, right? Traditional marketing and media buys.
$1 million. I mean, yeah, like it obviously depends on the reach. I mean, I can tell you this, that in the days, I mean, again, not to sound like I'm too long in the tooth here, but
Back in the old days.
seriously, this is gonna be amazing.
Sonny.
I used my 78 radar. It was incredible. It is interesting to see where the allocations of the spends are going, and you know, I mean, like I was saying earlier, with the whole digital marketing is marketing concept. There's a lot of real faith that's kind of put into our world, and a lot of it actually is in our advertising spends now, because that's a really solid way for us to actually get the word out, kind of, you know, above and beyond the core, right? I mean, I always have these conversations with people. They're like, well, what's the core of the band? Well, you know, you can kind of do some math. You sort of look at the YouTube numbers and the Facebook engagement rates and all that, but clearly you want to get beyond that, and that's going to take some throwdown. some throwdown. What the hell am I talking about? It's gonna take some cash money. So, and I'm done. Next.
Okay.
No comment.
So,
For once, no comment.
It doesn't take as much money as it used to. I'll say that. I mean, I think it's more time. It's more hiring someone to actually do the job and then follow up and make sure that they're doing it that I find a little bit of an issue with, as opposed to an actual spend. I think some of the best spends are just direct Facebook spends. You know, like I want to spend $50 on this ad. I want to target these, you know, geo-targeted audiences and this kind of spend, and I think it works really, really well. It works for us.
Very effective.
Yeah, very effective.
Strangely effective. I don't think anybody knows why, but they really work.
Yeah, because they're targeted, and if you like, you know, a certain artist or a certain brand, and Facebook picks up on it because it's Big Brother, and they see it, and then they put it up on top, and then it says, you know what I mean? If you like this person, you'll probably like this person. So it actually works. It's scary, but it works.
what about streaming services? Do streaming services like Spotify and RDO and non-interactive services like Pandora, do you think those services are helping to sell music?
No.
Yes.
That's why I asked that question.
A qualified yes. How's that for?
That's sort of like a little bit of a maybe.
I guess we're.
This is based on nothing other than my own personal opinion, so take it with a grain of salt. I just think that people who are streaming music are listening to music, getting what they want out of it, and moving on. It's not forcing them to go and buy it.
You don't think
It's
if
not
they
gonna
like it though, they're not gonna just
If they like it, they're gonna nope. They're gonna say, "I'm gonna play it again." Especially if it's Spotify, you have it. And if you're using Spotify, you've got it. You know, you really do. And look, I mean, even for my own personal habits, I mean, I can only speak from examples. I was buying music all the time on iTunes, and since I joined Spotify, I have not bought a song, not one song, and that's been 6 months.
Are you premium?
I am premium, yes, in many ways. Thank you.
I also think it depends on the genre, you know, like I'm more like urban, and I think in urban music people, I don't know, in my world we tend to sell some records still.
Country too. Country does a hell of a job selling music.
But maybe, I don't know, EDM may not, I'm not sure. What genre do you think that doesn't sell, that because of streaming, just in general?
I think pop.
Maybe
I
you're
think
right.
pop is not selling because of streaming.
And I don't know anything about pop music, so that's probably a good look. But maybe, but for us, I don't see a lot of drop in sales when we put stuff up on SoundCloud or Spotify, so not personally.
So, I'm gonna go to the old guy conversation again, the back in the day guy. So when I was a kid, and this always amazes me, I remember carrying around this giant bag of tapes, right? Like I had this fucking giant bag wherever I went. It was like the tape kit. And it was like 60 tapes.
8-track or reel-to-reel?
I'm not quite that old yet. I'm 74. And when I would carry this thing around, it's, you know, like I said, I had 60 tapes or whatever, right? So now, obviously, with my streaming service, I have every goddamn song I've ever wanted in this thing. And as a fan, it's incredible. Something pops in my head, oh, I want to go hear the Queens of the Stone Age first record, done, got it, great. What I know is, and this is slightly anecdotal, but I think this is kind of largely true, is that streamers stream, buyers buy, and stealers fucking steal.
Exactly.
And I think, and you know, there's a little bit of the connection to the Venn diagram, slightly in those things. Like occasionally I'll be like, oh, that Queens of the Stone Age record's really great. Well, there's a deluxe version of Rated R, so I'm gonna go buy that because I feel like I have to, right? I'm a huge fan of the band. I'm invested in them. What I think, and this is the reason why I had the qualified yes about the streaming services, is that the streaming service, like the idea is that we're all gonna get some sort of mass audience, right? We're gonna get the guy who doesn't necessarily really listen to a whole lot of music, but because it's available everywhere, he can go listen to it. In theory, that's gonna be a giant check for the entire world. What ends up happening, I found though, to be honest with you, is that I also then become more invested in the band itself. So I'm more inclined actually to go, oh, Queens of the Stone Age are putting out a new record, or they're gonna be touring, or whomever it may be. I'm kind of more inclined to become more of a music fan out of this experience than I'm actually perhaps really going out to saying, I'm gonna go, oh, like song, go buy song on iTunes.
And perhaps, you know, if a band's smart, like Radiohead, you know, you just say, hey, give what you can. And most people are like, yeah, I can do $5 instead of stealing it. So I think that there's ways around it, but I mean, and there's actually no way around, you know, this is the new world. Whether we like it or not, there's gonna be streaming forever, and it's just going to continue to be more and more, and it's just going to engulf the entire music industry.
Here's my problem with both you people. The first is, I don't think, as far as Jeff's concerned, I don't believe that people equate streaming with not being invested in the band. I think from an emotional standpoint, people still feel like they're a fan of the band. That's number one. Number two, you can't, Radiohead, you just can't use them as the example for anything because they're Radiohead. You know, so, and Radiohead people are going to be willing to pay, but I think for most bands, you know, people, you know, that $5, I think it's diminished, you know, by 85% for the majority of bands out there.
Okay,
So,
well, actually, let's do this. Let's do a quick audience poll. Maybe is not an option. Who thinks streaming services help artists sell more music? Raise your hand.
Huh. Surprised.
That's right.
Who think not?
That's my people.
There's a lot of,
That's my people.
there are some people abstaining.
Purple team, I like it, I like it.
Okay, let me ask you guys this. Outside of, you know, we talked about some of the usual suspects. We talked about Twitter a little bit. We talked about YouTube and Facebook. So outside of the kind of those usual suspects, those social networks, what are some other tools that you found to be helpful? I don't know, something like, I don't know, Tagged or Vine. I know, Jeff, you mentioned Vine. What are some other things that you guys have used?
Has anybody seen Stipple? They're set up downstairs. It's pretty cool. What it does is it embeds into your Twitter. It embeds everything. You can like it. You can like the Facebook page in the Twitter. You can see the clothes. You know, you scroll across the clothes. You can see the clothes the artist is wearing. If it's a picture, for example, you can look at lyrics. Everything is in one place, and I find that most people get frustrated having to switch between platforms. So I find that anything new that's integrating platforms into one, where it's a one-stop shop, tends to make life so much easier. And those seem, for me, the trend seems to be the ones that are doing that well are going to be the ones that are going to be the next sort of, you know, platforms that people use on a regular basis. Stipple, they're downstairs. Check them out. Very cool.
Paid for by Stipple.
Paid for by Stipple. Compliments of Stipple.
I find personalized messages from Google are really helpful. Like Google Plus is I don't think people figured out how to use it yet completely, but I think it's really powerful because if you're someone's friend, you get a personalized, well, it looks personalized, and I think that's been quite helpful. But, you know, Instagram is my new best friend. I just think it's so powerful, and you're just able to connect with people, and it's just visual, visual, visual. You don't have to think too much. Again, I don't believe people read that much, and so I believe that visual is the way to go. And I love all of the new sort of things that are coming out of Instagram, like Vine and all of these other sort of platforms that kind of have the same sort of.
What is Vine doing?
It's like Instagram for video. Yeah? That's pretty much what it is.
For short, tiny videos.
Short, exactly.
Right,
like 6 seconds.
Six to 10 seconds, something like that.
I think it's 6 seconds. 6 seconds.
It's not going to be cool anymore.
Oh, so it's not cool anymore now that we've talked about it on the panel?
So like, 2 seconds.
Anything.
Don't worry, nobody listens to me anyway.
And you're in my
The communication major in me just cried a little bit when you said that no reads. But I do believe in the power of the visual image more so than ever. And to that point, yeah, I mean, like, look, I agree that, I mean, things like Vine, I think Vine's cool, it's fun, it's easy, right? Like, and there's a nice little fire hose attached to it called Twitter, and you can get these things out. I think in general, to be honest with you, what I like to try and do is, I mean, there's like a million companies. There's a million companies out there that are really good at bringing all the experiences together as one. What I like to focus on as a digital marketing guy is really kind of back to what you were saying was the images. At this point, I mean, like, it's really funny actually. I may be going off slightly tangent here, but when it comes to like marketing videos, this is kind of a big thing for me. Is people will make like traditional music videos, and they're not necessarily thinking in terms of like what the real experience is on YouTube for a digital marketer and for a fan. So they'll like have this natural story arc that attaches to it, which is great. I mean, it can be the most amazing. It can be fucking Thriller all over again. Except for the fact that the first 5 seconds or 10 seconds or whatever, you're gonna have to ease your way into it. That's great, except for the fact that obviously if you're just kind of flipping through with an ADD world on YouTube or whatever it is that's coming at you, you gotta grab them immediately. And that's the kind of power of image that I'm talking about, right? Or whatever it is that kind of grab can really get at you.
So when you're building an artist web presence, an important part of it is the content strategy. So how does developing the artist's content strategy work with marketing efforts and your marketing strategies?
I don't know. want to take?
Yeah, I'll take this. Yeah, sure. I'm a huge proponent of this. This is like this is one of my major fortes, or what I'd like to think is my forte at least. Is the whole thing about marketing for me, for digital marketing, is really kind of the art of the tease a little bit, right? And for me, the art of the tease is just as important as the actual strip show itself when you have the record. And to that point, building up a lot of content, not necessarily just before the record comes out, because obviously you're going to want to extend the entire life of the album, but to get out of this mindset of, well, we're going to do a video for a song, and then we're going to do a video for another song. Do I think that there should be behind the scenes footage of me brushing my teeth? The narcissist in me says yes. But of course not, right? So I think that, like, here's an example. We did something with Tegan and Sarah recently, just from their last record, came out a couple of weeks ago, and it was a fantastic launch for us because there was a ton of content. Now, Tegan and Sarah, I don't know if you guys are familiar with them as people, but they're fucking hilarious. They're absolutely hilarious. They're really engaging, and they got on the bus. They really, really were excited, and there was a ton of content. We did something with Andy Samberg. We did. The girls themselves are really funny. To create that kind of content, not necessarily, again, like, here's a song, here's a music video, whatever it looks like, to be able to kind of get into their world really, really helped drive the entire project so far, and will continue to do so. So when you're talking about that kind of digital strategy, the content is so key for any kind of band that you have. They don't have to be as funny and awesome as Tegan and Sarah. They can use whatever sort of artistic vision that they want to project, but I really do believe that that kind of content is completely key.
It's kind of going back to the whole personalized artist content. We did an event with Common for the Grammys, and we got a lot of video hits of him just performing and doing his thing, but when he spoke about it and just was like, yo, I'm going to be at this event, we got way more hits. And it's just dude talking, telling people to go to an event for 30 seconds, and it got more hits than him actually performing. And we realized it's because people think it's special and it's personalized, and it's just so, I think more and more artists need to do that, because there's not much us marketers can do to make it feel special, because everyone knows all we're trying to do is market and sell to you.
What about working with brands? How do you guys work with brands on digital marketing initiatives?
I mean, the one thing I would say about that, and then probably pass it over to you guys, is that the relationship with brands has truly evolved, over the last, 5 to 10 years in a dramatic way. I think for a long time the music industry looked at brands as a way to finance tours. And then you'd have these hodgepodge relationships where, you have, I mean, it's not as bad as this, but you would have like rock bands, doing deals with tampon companies. I mean, it was like horrible. I mean, these horrible money-only relationships, and I think people grew very, very tired of these, and consumers grew very, very tired of these. So the relationships now have been so much more meaningful. The brands have gotten a lot smarter, and I also think the bands have gotten a lot smarter. And a lot of that, I think, goes to a lot of the people at the record companies, instead of taking the dollars, have been very smart about finding good relationships in the digital space for the artists. I think managers have gotten a lot better at this. Instead of figuring out how they're getting their 15% of whatever deal from Playtex, maybe Playtex isn't the best company to do a deal with anymore, So I think that in general, everybody in that space has gotten a lot smarter, has been a lot wiser, and I think that when there's a natural, meaningful marriage between two, it really, really works.
Also, people aren't cutting checks like they used to, as we all know. So ever since about, '08, I mean, brands have really cut down. Marketing is one of the first things to go, just like in any job. So you really have to have an integrated plan, and it has to be from A to Z. It can't just be, here we'll put a logo on the flyer and a banner behind the artist. No, we want a commercial, we want a tweet, we want branded this, we want the artist to be, wearing the clothes outside of the event. There's a lot of people want more, and they're going to give you a lot less for it these days, unfortunately. But there are still brands with a lot of money, but you either have to be super famous in order to get it, or you have to just have a really amazing strategic marketing plan. Otherwise, no one's going to pay attention to you, because no one cares about a logo on a fucking flyer.
And even in those big money deals, a lot of them still don't necessarily make sense. Like, the latest one to me made no sense. The Jay-Z Budweiser deal. I just don't believe he drinks Budweiser.
Maybe if it was was like
And by the way,
platinum?
he doesn't.
What about if it was like a platinum premium beer?
But now Justin Timberlake's doing that deal, and it also doesn't feel right. How are you gonna show up in a tux, carrying like a platinum tall boy? I'm not buying it. I'm not buying it. You've got to find a meaningful relationship. And speaking of beverages, Red Bull, no one's done it better than Red Bull. Period. They went out and found people who love their drink, who use their drink in that zany space of crazy new sports, and they nailed it. They nailed it.
And they're really smart through Red Bull Music Academy, because for more of the aficionados and the snobs like myself, they're like, okay, well for you we have RBMA and it's a different brand. It's still Red Bull, but you wouldn't even really know because you think of it as RBMA. You don't even think of it as the Red Bull Music Academy. It kind of takes away from the brand, but yet it's still Red Bull. I think they're absolutely genius with that on various levels, from sports marketing all the way to more of the underground music and helping up and coming artists. Red Bull's probably done a really good job out of everybody.
And if I may have one more thing on the other end of the spectrum, forget the Jay-Z, Budweiser, but the Red Bull model works on a local level. Like if you're a band that, and this may sound stupid, but bands have done this. If you're a band that eats at the same sub shop every day and these people, do a deal with them. If you're playing in 10 clubs around San Francisco, you're in the Bay, and you're eating at Jimmy's Subs every day, and they love you and you love them, there's a relationship that can be had there, and bands have done it. So it doesn't have to be, but it doesn't have to be a Fortune 500 company. There are other companies other than Coke, Pepsi, and Bud Platinum to do deals with. And I highly encourage you to follow your interests, as an artist. What do you use every day? Which toothpaste do you use? Which water do you drink? Where do you buy your gasoline? Whatever it is.
And then do your research on what agency is representing the brand, because I have a lot of people going, I'm going to call my boy at Adidas. That's not going to happen. You're going to deal with an agency that has the media buy that's going to be able to then say, okay, we're going to give Snoop Lion, don't make fun of him with that. We're going to give him a certain amount of money, but we also want him to wear our clothes. He's going to be wearing our clothes in the movie. He's going to integrate Adidas everywhere. So it's much more, they expect more, but you really have to go after the agency that deals with these kind of brands than as opposed to just thinking you're going to go after the agency directly, because that's almost never going to happen these days, unless you're super famous.
Also too, one thing that I love to do, and something we've been doing kind of more and more with our brand sponsorship team over too as well, is bolting on our digital campaigns to another brand. For example, we did something with Green Day for the launch of their very first record for Uno with Nokia. And Nokia sponsored a live stream show that they had. Nokia sponsored the first listen of the record that we had. That experience, the listening party, everyone does listening parties, cool, whatever. But that was a great way for us to monetize it, for them to and honestly also too, they were able to expand our reach, right? So they threw in marketing for it. It was a fantastic partnership. We've also done things recently, just actually the Super Bowl with the Flaming Lips and Hyundai. Giant ad on Super Bowl with the Flaming Lips, which is a weird band to be bolting on with Hyundai, but it worked in my opinion. And they were giving
weird
away
car, weird band. It works.
That's a good slogan. I like that. But those types of experiences, there's so much I think that is untapped, and you're right. I think obviously you have to find the right partner with the right band. You can't necessarily just bolt on some crazy brand X with a band that's not going to work for that. But I think that's actually a really, really important future if the band's comfortable with it. And again, like you were saying, like 10 years ago, this was verboten. This would never have happened. And I think it not only speaks to some of the marketing efforts that have to be put in to kind of get over the hump of a lot of static noise, but also too just the willingness of a lot of these brands to kind of get into this thing now. I mean, there's people that are working on brand sponsorships that actually like music and will go, the Flaming Lips, let's go use them, or some crazy band. I mean, I just heard Queens of the Stone Age actually being used on, what was it, a Verizon ad. I was like, oh, shit, interesting.
I have a follow-up question to that, and then I think we only have a few minutes. Go ahead, Jeff.
No, I was just going to say, one quick addition is that, it doesn't matter, everyone talks about the music industry is doing well, and the sales are down, and we're year 9 of a 10-year storm. Brands love music. It's an instant way for them to say, here is what our audience is about, sonically. So brands love bands and are spending hundreds of millions of dollars to get in bed with bands that sound like their food taste, their their soda taste, all of that is very, very important, and they are all over musical acts, all over them.
Okay, so I want to ask a follow-up question, then I think we'll go to questions from the audience, so we have enough time for that. But one of the things that I deal with is we get endorsement offers from all these companies for our clients, and there are all these social media obligations that come along with it, like you were talking about. So there.
But you're famous, rich, and successful, so that's what happens. You know, you have to.
So I want somebody to speak to that. Thank you.
That was a delayed laugh. I'm giving you guys my A stuff here, okay? Come on.
Our clients are, I'm not. Our clients are, I'm not. So, but you know, I remember going through a number of proposed deals for one of our clients, and it's from a number of different companies. And had the artist done all of the deals that were proposed, she would have had to do like 120 tweets a month just to promote these various brands. It was way over the top. So how do you find the right balance of working with a brand and giving them what they want in that space, but at the same time, being good to your fans and giving them, valuable content?
I would love to jump in here. This is great. So a lot of times, this is what I love so much about working sometimes in my space versus the brand space sometimes, is the brands are going to ask for anything, right? They're going to ask for some crazy ass shit. And I've had some crazy ass shit requests before, where I know full well that Band X ain't going to be doing this. It is not going to happen. And then sometimes they're like, well, why can't this person record a specific song for our specific brand? God, I wish I could get into details, but I can't. But I was like, because it ain't going to happen. It literally will not happen. And what they generally do is they're kind of like, oh, okay. Like I found them like, they're just gonna ask for everything. Fine, I do the same thing as my job, to go ask for everything. But then again, they'll do the same thing, right? They're like, I need, like this hasn't happened, but this is a good example of it. Like, I'll need Neil Young to go tweet this particular link out for this particular thing. I'm like, it is not going to happen. Guarantee you it is not gonna happen.
Let alone 120.
Let alone 120. So they're just gonna ask for that kind of stuff. And I'll just go through line by line, be like, no, yeah, probably, okay, sure, let's see what happens. But you're right, there is a preponderance of a presence that they're gonna wanna have in that kind of space.
And the other thing is, it's also the job of the manager. There are a lot of managers in here. You have to explain to the brands, the brands are coming to you because they want what you have. They want your aesthetic. They want your fan base. They want your audience. They want everything that you're associated with. So it's your job to explain to them how you communicate, your artist communicates with their fans, and how to effectively use what they're bringing to the table in order to get your message across. And brands also have gotten a lot smarter about that over the last few years. They used to really ask for everything and couldn't understand why Neil wouldn't turn Cinnamon Girl into like Cinnamon Bun or whatever, like, why can't he do a Cinnabon? So they used to ask for this crazy stuff, and now they're learning. But managers really need to do that. You have to really explain.
Yeah, like for instance, someone came at us. They wanted to do a buyout on our site. They wanted us to wallpaper our entire site for this one event in LA, and I kind of just had to maneuver and say, well, look, we're national, we're not just in LA. How about we do this, this, and that? And he agreed to it. So I think it's the art of negotiation, and I also think that maybe you offer them things that they didn't think of, so that you can say, well, we can't do this for you, but we can do that. How about that? And it's all about being a good salesperson and knowing how to pitch. So I think that the art of negotiation, no matter if it's 20 years ago or now, is pretty much the same.
Cool. All right, so it's time to go to the audience. Right here is the first one.
So I can't remember, the report came out a little while ago that said the average smartphone user looks at their phone about 500 times a day. Compared to television and radio and sort of traditional media, it seems like there's sort of a sensory overload going on. How do you get above that?
I don't think you really can. I think you just have to have really good content. I don't know if you can. I think people are just, they're consumed by so many things and are being thrown at them, and social media, and like you said, the phone, and now you have the iPads, and you're just consistently connected. I think it's just having really good content and be able to be above the clouds with that. I don't know if there's any other way.
I mean, not to sound, elementary about it, but I think, there's two things that I think are universal. And the first is quality, cream rises to the top always. If your message is great, people will hear about it. It's sort of like, it reminds me of like going back to like an old A&R thing where people would say, yeah, there's this great band in Ohio that nobody's discovered. And I would say, bullshit. If there's a great band, somebody would have discovered them. There's no great band out there that hasn't been discovered because people will flock. The other thing is that there's nothing better, and I don't care, digital media, traditional marketing, there's nothing better than word of mouth, and if you've got the quality, people will talk about it, and that's how you get through the clutter. I mean, you've just got to be better than everybody else, and if you're not better than everybody else, then you're not going to make it, and you don't deserve to make it.
And keep your messaging clear and short and succinct. Again, like a subject titles with, these no one's gonna read. Just short. You know what I mean? New record by Bilal. Done. Click here. Done. It's got to be simple. And also, it's a lot of people don't realize you can actually not embed videos into newsletters, but you can create a simple screenshot with a little play button, and people will click on it and go to YouTube or Vimeo. And a lot of people don't do that. And they'll just have a link that says, "Click to see the video." Guaranteed, you will have way more people clicking on it if you have a screenshot of it, and even though they're doing the same exact thing.
Right. And I would just add to that, just as long as you just when you make great content, make it very easy for people to share and talk about.
Yes.
Simple. Next, right here.
It's a two-part question. There's you guys brought up the idea of using social networks, and what about using something like sound tracking to promote? I don't know if you're familiar with that app, but an app like sound tracking to promote music because it has embedded. You're actually sharing music through
Yeah,
social.
it's great.
And then the other is actually more of a question. What do you think of using brands as like marketing networks? Brands like Red Bull that you mentioned that actually go out there and support artists through their soundstage program or things like that, or brands like Scion versus brands like a one-off Skype that'll give you a band a shitload of money, but will not back you up on anything.
Well, you named two brands that are incredible in my eyes, because when you think of Red Bull, you think of Scion, you kind of think of specific music genre, you kind of think of a scene. And I think if you can get with a brand that understands you, kind of like Kia does with basketball and Blake Griffin. Like, I've met those guys and they really like basketball and Blake Griffin. It helps. So I think absolutely using brands that that can help. So it's really powerful if you're able to get to some of these conferences. Maybe not so much in San Francisco, but maybe so much in LA and New York, to be honest, that you can get with these brands directly and be in their faces with the marketing representatives.
I take the long tail versus the quick check, especially if you're trying to break an act. If you're Beyonce, take the check, who cares? But there's only one Beyonce, you know what I mean?
Right here.
You said that Facebook marketing was really effective, that it's super targeted, so you can spend $50 and you see great success. How do you define that, and what metrics do you think these marketers should be looking to? Because iTunes makes it really difficult to track sales, so what are you using to define success? And
Yeah. Well, obviously the Google Analytics and Facebook Analytics, and there's a lot of other, internal analytics programs that you can use. But I think Facebook, they just have such a good it shows you exactly what someone clicked on, where they're at, really detailed information, basically everything but their name. And so it's great because you can see like when they clicked on it, how long they took to be on your page. I think analytics are great. And people diss Google Analytics because it's a little whatever. It's free and it works and people trust it. So I think it's one of the better ones.
Well, and also too, we have affiliate links with everything that we do, right? So just get a tracking link on it, do affiliate links. We can see where it goes. I like Facebook, I like Twitter ads, I like all kinds of stuff, and those, but it's like, that's the key, right? Like, again, back in my day, we weren't really doing any kind of goddamn tracking, right? It was like, get a website up. Fuck yeah, we're done. Drop the money. But seriously, that was a marketing campaign, right? Like GeoCities.
Right.
Done. And now it's.
You are old.
I said I'm 11. This is like Hobbit's age. The nerd, thank you. So anyways, back to your question. It's really the affiliate tracking at this point, right? So we can go back to, it's like, oh, okay, X amount went to iTunes. We get, enough to buy us a refrigerator in our office, and everyone's happy. The end.
Awesome.
Right here. Okay, we got 2 minutes left.
What kind of scale does a new service have to achieve before you're interested or would run a test on it?
What kind of service? What do you mean by service?
Well, like you buy a $50 Facebook ad campaign, but I imagine you buy a lot of those or something to that effect. But would you test a service that only costs $50 one time to see how it works?
Yeah, I would.
I mean,
Yeah.
would Warner Brothers test a
Yeah.
service
Yeah.
for $50?
Yeah,
Okay.
25. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm Jewish, 10.
Yeah, I totally. I mean, look, if I can experiment as much as possible, please, yes.
All right, one more question right here. Right behind you.
I'm just curious how effective is the
Hold
free
on.
download
Hold on.
in promoting a band or
Re-ask.
you find on the blogs and
Very
Sure,
effective.
sure. How effective is the free download?
I think it's great.
Again, it's a business card. You get the music, you like the music, then you go on the site, you like the site, you buy the ticket, buy the t-shirt, boom.
It's effective if you can also make the trail between the download, the sale, whatever it is you're trying to promote, right? Like, I don't want to give something away in the ether and be like, see ya, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
And you burned it, right?
yeah, exactly. You know,
Make people
you really
sign up
gotta-
as well in an email list. You know, try to make it, you know, hey, this is free, but please give us your email address. And then it's great because anytime, you know, if something else comes up, you don't have to even reach out to them directly. You already have an email program that does that efficiently. So FanBridge is really good. That's something we didn't really talk about, but there's a lot of good
FanBridge is
sites.
really good.
FanBridge is really, really good.
Tweet
And
for
then
a
there's
song.
a lot of like Ezine Director, EZIN Director is a really easy and inexpensive alternative to some of the other mass mailer systems. You have to know HTML, you have to be a little, you know, more, you know, proactive with the coding, but if you know it or you could get a template, it's so much cheaper and easier than a lot of these other mailing systems.
Okay, we got one more question over here on this side.
I think
Plaid shirt.
Where at?
Side.
Hi, so just a quick question, I think, like everybody wants to know, you know, in terms of reaching a lot of these brands or marketing people, what is the best way to get your guys' attention? Because obviously your email boxes are flooded all of the time. So what is a good, effective way that, you know, could maybe make an email stand out a little bit?
Are you offering me money?
Get me a job.
I love LinkedIn. I live on LinkedIn. I think it's great for business.
A lot of people really love LinkedIn. A lot of people talk to me. Well, I mean, I use it, but you know, not for that. You know, but
The old guys don't like
a
it.
lot of people really do like LinkedIn. It's very tough to get the attention of the brands. It really is. You either have to, you know, you have to have a relationship. You have to have a relationship with someone who has a relationship. It's tough. I mean, there's
It
no
is who
easy
you know.
there's no easy answer to that. There isn't an easy answer to that.
Yeah,
Shake hands and kiss babies, really.
exactly, pretty much.
That's really it.
And don't be annoying. Like it's okay to follow up, but hey, just checking in. But if you check in with me like just 2 days later and I'm traveling or whatever, I might not pay attention to you just because you were like, I didn't get a response from you or whatnot. And try not to call people. I don't know anyone that takes unsolicited calls ever.
The other thing which is helpful, which can be helpful, is, you know, all these brands have, some of them have an agency of record, but many of them use a number of different things for different target audience. For example, Converse, for example. Converse uses a company called Cornerstone Marketing in New York. You guys may know Cornerstone, they do Fader magazine. They're like a cool, manageable sized company. It's very easy to meet people at Cornerstone. It could end up being a good fit. You end up getting studio time for over tracks, then you like in a Converse. There are ways in, you know.
There's a guy from Cashmere Agency that was on another panel, if he's still here, but that's another manageable, smaller company that, you know, deals with exclusive brands and not too many companies. So I think it's best in some of these larger agencies out there that have like, you know, that won't pay attention to you. So.
All right, cool. I think we're out of time. Join
Thank
me
you,
in
guys.
our
Thanks,
panelists.
Brian.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Brian.